Mahasapati, Lord of the world, with palms joined in reverence, requested a favor. Beings are here with but little dust in their eyes. Pray, teach the Dhamma out of compassion for them.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang Dhammang Sanghang Namasami. I hope you're settling into the retreat, into the practice, and into the development of faith. There's a short sutta in the Samyutta Nikaya where it says there are these 5 powers: the power of faith, the power of energy, the power of mindfulness, the power of samadhi, the power of wisdom. And for each one, it says where these powers are seen. So when these faculties really become powers, how do we identify them? And for the power of faith, where you see the power of faith, says the Buddha, is in the 4 factors of stream entry. So upon entering the stream, which is the first level of awakening, the first glimpse of Nibbana, really, it really settling in the heart to the degree that there's no going back. And the fetters that fall away are the personality view. So never again identifying with the body to such a degree that you think it's yours or that it's you. And also for the mental aggregates. And the second one, Silabhata Paramasa, is usually translated as not adhering to rites and rituals in an unskillful way, or an unskillful use of rites and rituals. And for me, that never really had a lot of impact, that meaning, that description. I wasn't conditioned to believe that if I chanted the Karni Metta Sutta every morning or something like that, that I would be somehow saved, for example. However, Ajahn Sumedho has been talking about that fetter as being our cultural and social conditioning, which makes so much more sense. Because where does our idea of some kind of power lying in a rite or ritual come from? It's from our social and cultural conditioning. So the first fetter is about our personal conditioning. The idea that we think we're this body, or we think we're this personality. The second one comes from all of the social things that we're conditioned by. I think that's fascinating. And when the stream entry experience happens, then there's a split away from believing that's me or mine, or that there's some, we can see it. We can see what is being held on to that's just merely conditions. So that's pretty big. And then the third one is that all doubt in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the enlightened Sangha falls away. So that's where the power of faith is seen. The unwavering confidence in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. And these are the factors of stream entry. These are the qualities that a stream enterer has. Unwavering confidence in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, and the virtuous behavior dear to the noble ones. So this real dedication to moral precepts, the 5 precepts. And I think it's, if you reflect on that, to really see the power in that. The power in the results of keeping precepts at that level, to the results of having that kind of confidence. It's really beautiful. And accessible. You might think, that's something that's far away, but no. I remember hearing that Ajahn Pasanno once said there's absolutely no reason why you should be a stream enterer before you die. So don't think of it as far away. But there are some things we need to do. That we can, causes and conditions we can put in, and you're working on those. That's why you're here, even if you don't think of it that way. And part of that is developing these powers. If we develop these powers, like I said, it's one facet of the way the Buddha taught, but it connects to all the other components of the Dhamma. Developing these 5, or in some other place, a list of 6, or in some other place, a list of 7. Any place you pull the thread, you get the whole tapestry. So tonight I want to talk about energy, virya, and how that becomes a power. And in this sutta, this little sutta, it says, where is the power of energy to be seen? The power of energy is to be seen in the 4 right strivings. So many of you know what the 4 right strivings are. As I read last night, it's about abandoning unwholesome qualities and acquiring wholesome qualities. The 4 right strivings are usually described in terms of thoughts, mental moods or states. And it's in abandoning unwholesome mental states that have arisen and doing what's needed to keep unwholesome mental states from arising, and encouraging wholesome states to arise and maintaining the wholesome states that have arisen. That's usually those are the 4 aspects, the 4 right strivings. So striving sounds really intense. But as I said yesterday, I think that persistence is much more what I hear, what I see in the Buddha's teachings than some kind of gung-ho grind away at, sitting in meditation until your sinews dry up and your blood dries up, until, eating 3 rice grains a day and that kind of thing. So I want to share a sutta with you what I see in here is a proper use of energy. And we'll see what you think. So this sutta is also from the middle length discourses, the Majjhima Nikaya. It's number 5, and I'm looking at Bhante Sujato's translation, which is available on suttacentral.net. And it's entitled Unblemished. And in this one, the Buddha is staying near Savatthi. And yet it's not really the Buddha who says this, it's Sariputta, Venerable Sariputta. He's speaking to the mendicants. And of course, probably everyone else, probably lay people there too. He says there are 4 kinds of people found in the world. Now, this is a device that's used frequently in the suttas and by the Buddha and his disciples, where you kind of look at a certain set of qualities and you divide. You fill, if you're going to fill a table, you could fill 4 quadrants with, covers everybody. And in this case, he's talking about blemishes, like having a flaw or a fault. And he says there's one kind of person with a blemish that doesn't truly understand there is a blemish in me. So we have a fault, but we don't see it. It's a blind spot. And he says there's another kind of person with a blemish that does truly understand there's a blemish in me. So they've got a blemish, they've got a fault, and they know it. They see it. And he says there's one kind of person without a blemish that doesn't truly understand there is no blemish in me. And there's another kind of person without a blemish that does truly understand there is no blemish in me. Sometimes when you read these things, you go, what? What did I just say? Okay, so you've got 2 people who have a flaw or a fault. One knows they've got it, the other one doesn't know they've got it. You've got 2 people who have no flaw or fault. I haven't met them. But for the sake of argument, one realizes they don't have a fault, and the other one does not realize it. No fault, but they don't realize it. Isn't that a fault? Okay. You can tell I would have been a problem child over there with Venerable Sariputta. Anyway, he says that in the case of the 2 people with a blemish, the one who doesn't understand it is in worse shape. That makes sense, right? And in the case of the 2 without a blemish, the one who doesn't understand it is in the worst shape. And then his pal Mahamoggallana says to him, and by the way, in the footnote it says that the 2 of them are talking about this in front of the monks. in a way to teach them. So it's not like Mahamoggallana doesn't know this. He's just kind of like, this is the way they're getting the monks to pay attention. Okay? He says, well, what is the cause, Reverend Sariputta? What is the reason why of the two people with a blemish, one is said to be worse and one better? And what is the cause? What is the reason why the two people without a blemish, one is said to be worse or one better? So then, Venerable Sariputta says, take the case where the person who has a blemish does not understand it. You can expect that they won't generate enthusiasm, make an effort, or rouse up energy to give up that blemish, because they don't see it, right? I bet you know people with this problem. Of course, we don't have the problem, because we don't know we have the problem. However, we can definitely, I found that to be a really useful device to really see what's going on with someone else. It doesn't happen so much anymore, but to really notice it out there and then to turn around and say, do I do that? How do I do that? Is there some way in which I do that? It's interesting how it can kind of nibble away at the blind spots. To start to see in ourselves the same kind of thing. And then, of course, we've got a chance to clear it up. So this idea that they won't generate enthusiasm, make an effort, and rouse up the energy to give up that blemish. So this is exactly what virya is about, what energy is about. Sometimes virya is talked about as having kind of three parts. Here's kind of three parts too. Maybe it's the same thing. To take the initiative, so get started. You know how sometimes a task feels really hard? Sometimes the hardest thing about it is getting started, right? Did you ever have that? Yeah. So, taking the initiative, getting started. Here he talks about generating the enthusiasm. I think that could be similar. Generating the enthusiasm. And then there's the part about really in the three ways, the thing that it talks about next is sustaining, persevering, sustaining the effort. And the third one, often that's listed in the third one, is to really put in effort. So the amount of effort you put in and how much you can sustain it. So I've been talking about virya as persistence, as being able to sustain it, but we also need those other two pieces. We do have to put in the energy, and we do have to initiate it. And here, generate the enthusiasm, make the effort, put in the effort, and rouse up the energy to give up that blemish. And because they won't do that, because they don't even know they've got this blemish, he says they will die with greed, hate, and delusion, blemished with a corrupted mind. Well, that sounds like a bad idea. I think we want to find out about these blemishes. And then he uses this lovely simile. Suppose a bronze cup was brought from a shop, covered with dirt and stains, and the owners neither used it or had it cleaned and kept it in a dirty place. Over time, wouldn't that bronze cup get even dirtier and more stained? Yeah, that's the response. Yes. In the same way, the person who has a blemish and doesn't understand it goes down this road of actually getting worse. And he says, take the person who has a blemish and does understand it. You can expect that they will generate enthusiasm, make an effort, and rouse up energy to give up that blemish. Is it always true? Sometimes people want to dig in and say, hey, I am the way I am. That seems like a recipe for suffering to me. So, I think one reason we may not generate the enthusiasm, put in the energy, put in the effort, and build up the energy to change it is we think we can't. Like I've seen some people say, you can change that? You know, it can feel like maybe an old habit, something we learned a long time ago, maybe something we've carried with us for lifetimes. But the truth of the matter is, and what we know, what you'll know, when that realization that all of this, what we're experiencing, is conditioned, is that this blemish is also conditioned. It's based on causes and conditions. You take those causes and conditions away, and so the blemish caves, disappears. So let's take a specific example. What if we're dealing with anxiety? And, you know, another component to this is whatever we experience, whatever quote-unquote blemish there is, it's worthy of compassion. It's not just like, oh, there's some evil thing. No, these habits or tendencies or our personal and social and cultural conditioning, this has been kind of like, this is what's been handed to us, you might say. We have these imperfections. It's part of being a human being. We're never going to perfect our personality. We're never going to perfect this conditioned world. But what we're aiming to do is see that this conditioned response is unskillful, causes trouble, and if we change it and instead develop a skillful approach or a skillful way of thinking and acting, we're heading in an upward direction, in a direction of peace and happiness, and away from the stress, the struggle, the fear, the unskillful behavior by body, speech, or mind. So if we're dealing with something like anxiety or fear or anger or regret, you can fill in the blank with your favorite one. We all experience these things. Then the Buddha says we can see an alternative path. We can see an alternative to this. And we can investigate this with the first three noble truths by being present with that experience, especially as we feel it in the body. And part of the key of understanding how to take a different path, the non-anxiety path, is that we see why we are clinging to this, why we're attached. What are we attached to? What are we attached to? Attached to some kind of experience we want coming through the senses. We're attached to being or becoming something. We're attached to wanting to get rid of something. Kamatana, bhavatana, vibhavatana. Somewhere in there, wanting something to be different than it is. The clinging is what needs to be let go of. That can be difficult because we have these very strongly conditioned views of who we are and what belongs to us. And it's all part of the conditional world, and none of that is who we are, and none of that belongs to us. But coming to that point of really knowing that takes the practice of the whole Noble Eightfold Path. And we're doing it. We're doing it. So when we investigate this blemish, we have the opportunity, we bring the energy to it. We're also going to be bringing our samadhi to it, our faith to it. First and foremost, our mindfulness to it and our wisdom to it. And as we cultivate these powers, we can start to see our way through it. This image of taking the rough path of fear, anxiety, worry, depression, whatever, anger, regret, versus instead of that, taking the smooth path. This comes out of Effacement Sutta in the Middle Length Discourses, number 8. It's one of my favorites because I say that a lot, but about a lot of favorites. I have a lot of favorites, but this one is great. And in that sutta, the Buddha there are 5 stages of working with these, let's call them tonight, blemishes, and in ways that we can move around it, and by doing it the opposite way, by taking that smooth path, we begin to weaken the power of that blemish, that weaken the calcification around that blemish. It's like scouring a pot that's been really burnt. How many of you have done that? Scouring the black pot that you just, okay, you know how this is. You go at it for a while. It feels like you're not making any progress. Yeah? And then you keep going, and you start to, it's starting to come off, right? And you just keep going. Eventually you can get it all off a nice stainless steel pot. Well, your mind is a stainless steel pot. You can clean it up. But it takes that persistence sometimes. So, in this case, you know you have the blemish, and you do understand it. You put in the enthusiasm, the effort, you rouse up the energy to give up. Just give up, giving up, letting go. That is really so much a part of the practice. Even in meditation, to go deeper, we have to let go. We have to give up what we're holding on to. Suppose a bronze cup was brought from the shop, covered with dirt and stains, but the owners used it and had it cleaned and didn't keep it in a dirty place. And over time, wouldn't that bronze cup get cleaner and brighter? Same is true for this person who has a blemish and does understand it. they will die with an uncorrupted mind. It's interesting that he says it this way. I'm looking for the whole text. They will die without greed, hatred, or delusion, unblemished, with an uncorrupted mind. It's really taking it all the way, but why not? That's where we're going. Okay. So how about this person who doesn't have a blemish, but doesn't understand it? In a way, why is that so bad? If this person doesn't have a blemish, they don't know, what's the problem? Well, he says that then they're going to focus on the beautiful. And because of that, lust will affect their mind. Lust will affect their mind. Lust, greed, desire, just being really caught up in the beautiful. It's interesting. It's like the mind is good, pure, but there's not enough awareness there. There's not enough clarity there. This is kind of some of the descriptions of what it's like in heaven realms. Oh, thank you. Now that you mention it. So when he compares it to the bronze cup, he says that it's brought from the shop clean and bright. And the owners use it and they clean it. Oh wait, this must be the wrong one. It's brought from the shop clean and bright, and the owners do not use it, they don't clean it, and they keep it in a dirty place. And over time, wouldn't that bronze cup get dirtier and more stained? So this idea that and I think I can see in human life the things that happen to us, the things we have to brush up against, the challenges that are created. If we kind of float through life on a cloud without a lot of awareness, it's not going to go that well. We do have to come to grips with dukkha. So now we have the person who doesn't have a blemish and they do understand it. You can expect that they won't just focus on the beautiful. Do you know anyone who does this, just focus on the beautiful? A little bit of spiritual bypassing going on there, maybe, or just, I don't know. Anyway. So in this case, they're not going to just focus on the beautiful. And then greed won't infect their mind. They'll wish for that to keep going, I guess. They'll wish for more and more of the beautiful. And they will die without greed, hate, and delusion, unblemished, with an uncorrupted mind. It's like a bronze cup that's brought from the shop, clean and bright, and the owners use it and clean it, and they don't keep it in a dirty place. Over time, wouldn't that bronze cup get cleaner and brighter? Yes. I'm going to leave the rest of the sutta for you to read someday. There's more to it. But I think that's enough to illustrate our practice, our the beauty of putting in effort and energy, the beauty of wanting to know. So we just finished the Vasa, the rains retreat period. And if you don't know what that means, so the monastics at the time of the Buddha were wanderers. And these days there's a lot of wandering too. Fly here to do a retreat, go there. I don't know. Sometimes you think it's a little different, but a lot of coming and going can happen among the monks and nuns. And during the rainy period in northeast India, the monsoon period, the monastics were required to stay in one place because it's just pouring rain all the time. And it says in the monastic code that there are a lot of stories in there, by the way, besides just the rules, that the wandering of the mendicants was causing damage to the crops. But anyway, you stay in one monastery, and that's usually a time when you spend more. So you have a consistent community of mendicants living together, and you spend more time focused on study together, and also sometimes meditation together. And at the end of that period, then we're required to ask. That's called pravarana. You give the permission, or you ask to hear about anything that the monastics you've been living with have seen, heard, or suspected that you should change. Do I have a blemish that I'm not seeing? Could you let me know? And sometimes that just becomes a very perfunctory ceremony. There's no real discussion. You know something's going wrong in that community. But other times you can really have this wonderful, heartfelt sharing with each other that leads to being able to examine things and develop. So it's really built into the monastic form. But of course, when you have friends, family members, your kalyanamita, your spiritual buddies that you're practicing with, you can also maybe invite that, or with a teacher, just to see if there's anything some clues. And of course, the biggest clues we have that something needs, or I don't think I want to say it that way, that there's an opportunity to really grow and develop is dukkha. Come back to the Four Noble Truths. When we're suffering, looking at where that's coming from, how that feels, not pulling away from it. So in a retreat, you really have that opportunity. Sometimes when people go into a retreat, there's the thought that, well, now I can just set aside the problems in my life and I can rest. And maybe it goes that way and that's good for them. But most of the time, I think retreat time is an opportunity to really learn, uncover the causes for our suffering. So a lot of times when the mind is relieved of its usual thinking requirements, then things surface that we don't really give much time to or don't have the bandwidth for in our ordinary life. And we may say, oh darn, I don't want to see this. I don't want to think about this. I want to have nice, pleasant meditations, okay? But really, that is maybe where the most benefit can be made, can be had, is to be present with those unpleasant experiences or memories or thoughts. If there's something in them that we're still clinging to. Not all memories should be treated equally, however. Some of them are just some broken record from the past that's playing over and over again that you've looked at already 300 times and you really can't learn anything more from it. Those kind are good to supplant with wholesome thoughts and forgiveness. If we've already learned everything we can learn from it. But we want to be careful not to jump to that state, because we really do need to be present with the dukkha we experience in order to really resolve it, to see what it is that I need to let go of. That doesn't serve you anymore. Just let go of it. Doesn't serve you anymore, and to see it with wisdom. So today in one of the groups I was talking about this idea of being present with what we experience, regardless of what it is, regardless of how difficult it feels. So often we don't want to turn towards it because it feels so big, but as soon as you turn towards it, it kind of shrinks down. And then when we're present with it, the way to do this is to be present with where you feel it in your body. So one way that we can get kind of off track is if we are just thinking about the problem. That doesn't fix it. That actually makes it worse. But this is feeling it, and it's not about the people or the circumstances. That's just the trigger. What you really want to be focused on is the feeling of it. Because that's really where the attachment is. That's really where the craving is. We are driven by feeling. We want pleasant feeling and we don't want painful feeling. And we go through to great lengths to arrange our life so that it will be pleasant feeling most of the time if we can get away with it. But actually none of us can get away with it. This body is aging. It is not really much fun, not nearly as much fun as it was 45 years ago. But that's just how it goes. And so to use this body and everything else in this life as a way to develop the mind, to become free of greed, hatred, and delusion, to become free of dukkha, of suffering, we need to turn towards it, towards the dukkha. And so that triggering statement is there. We know what caused this dukkha to come up. And then we stay present with the feeling and locate where it's showing up. And some of you have heard this 100 times, but doing it is what's crucial. If we're still suffering, gotta come back, do this again and again. I did a lot of journaling during the years that I was really needing to focus on this to get through the layers of suffering I was experiencing. Asking questions about what was really going on with this feeling. And that feeling might be in your chest, it might be in your gut, it might be Usually it's somewhere between your chin and the bottom of your torso. And you notice things about it. How big is this feeling? Does it feel like a rock? Does it feel like a sponge? What's its texture? What's its color? So why would you ask questions like that about a feeling presenting in your body? It's so that you establish mindfulness of it. Because when you're asking questions about something like that, you're not caught up in it anymore. You're viewing it from the outside. And what you're really doing is employing that witness capability, the observer. You're observing this feeling. And what I found was I could be completely awash in tears. I could be completely caught up in the misery of it and yet have this observer observing it. And even saying something like, I know your stomach really hurts because that's where this feeling is, but I think if you got some food, it might be good for you. Crying, making the food, and it's like the two different pieces are there at the same time. There is this calm, centered observer. And the more practiced we get with this, the more we reside in that witness position that is not caught up in the emotion, that is not caught up in the feeling, that is not wanting to get rid of anything. It's our awareness. It's mindfulness. Ajahn Sumedho even uses those words the same way he uses nibbana. Nibbana. Reflect on it. Use it. Come to know it. Be able to go there in any moment. Right now. What's it like to observe what you're feeling? And what does that mean? To observe how these words are landing. What the experience is. Without description, to use Ajahn Sumedho's way of putting it, it's like this. And in that space, it's like this. It's the intuition, it's the feeling, it's the sense of it. Awakening is intuitive, it's not reasoning, it's not intellectual. And it's not going to come from the same conditioned reality that we're operating in. It's beyond that. Beyond it, beneath it, I don't know. But this is what we want to work with. This is what we want to make use of. And there are some great questions in here that I'll talk about, and they relate to this because everything relates to this. Really. We start to see what is meant by conditioned reality, conventional reality, sankharas, that everything, that chant, those two lines in the chanting, all sankharas are impermanent, all anicca, sabbe sankhara anicca. Sabbe means all. Sankhara is conditioned things that are, there's no core to them. They're like banana trees. You cut them off and there's leaves wrapped around, but there's no core. Where Ajahn Dhamma likes this statement, they can't exist from their own side. They don't exist from their own side. That's your body. It doesn't exist from its own side. It's not stable. It's changing all the time. You can observe it. It's not going to last. It will fall apart. Don't let that be a shock. Practice now. Don't let it be a shock when someone else's body falls apart. It doesn't have to be a shock. So, all conditions are impermanent. The truth of that permeates through all of our delusion. And all dhammas, sabbe dhamma, anatta. All dhammas are not self. What to you? What does it mean to be you? Well, there's this conventional me sitting here, Santusika, the name, the body, the way I think, my perceptions, my beliefs about things. Isn't that all conditioned? Knowing the Dhamma is not conditioned. The truth of the way things are, that is just reality. It's just the way things work, and they always work that way. So when we're observing what we feel, experience, the dukkha we experience, then when we pull back from it, we're mindful of it, we're not in it, we're in this position of the witness. And when we look at it slightly from above, we're looking at it with Dhamma, to see it in the light of Dhamma. So we'll see what we're attached to, we'll see how we're clinging, we'll see that it's impermanent. It's more than just, we really know it directly, then we let it go. Because we know there's nothing worth holding on to here in this world. Now when that happens, there's so much joy, relief. You don't have to work so hard to hold it together. We work so hard to try to change things we can't change, to try to keep things from aging and falling apart that we cannot keep from aging and falling apart. And there's relief. Because then we can really be present with what's falling apart. Accepting that as natural as the reality. We can really be present with what's not perfect, including ourselves, including our conventional selves that we're carrying around all the time. And this is the beautiful, full relief from suffering, available to us. Some people, some teachers, some probably fairly advanced beings will say it's your birthright as a human being to awaken. Or they'll say, that's your true nature. Ajahn Chah said, that's your true home. So we can start by recognizing that when we're witnessing dukkha, when we've pulled back, maybe a little up, we can see it in the light of Dhamma. That witnessing position, that's the doorway to our true home. That's the front door. We can experience that in this moment. It's never any other time. It's in this present moment. You can experience it, you can feel it right now. But the tricky part is we try to do that as a personality. instead of letting go of that. We have to let go of being who we think we are so we can experience what we really are. If we're doing it as a personality, we're going to experience more dukkha. And so eventually we need to learn how to step out of that. What is it like if you show up without your personality? Without your personal and cultural and social conditioning? Can you do it? Can you drop all the facade? Can you drop all the pretense? Can you just be present with what is without all that? Not trying to do something, not trying to be anything, not wanting to get rid of anything. Non-judgmental. Fascinating. I have a feeling I'll have more questions tomorrow, which is great. And I will, I think, let you go now and go read the rest of these. That will be fun. I am so happy you're here, and I'm so proud of what you're doing. For some of you, this is like your first longer retreat. Sorry, threw you in the deep end. But I think you'll be fine. And there's nothing else really worth doing. And that doesn't mean that we don't do our ordinary life and live in the relationships we're in or try to get rid of anything. We're not going to try to get rid of our personality. That's not the point, and it doesn't work anyway. This is what we have to operate through. We don't want to get rid of the body. We want to take care of it because we're using this form and this personal conditioning and this social conditioning to operate through. But we need to come to it with the wisdom and the understanding that this is just a shell. This is just a vehicle. We want to use it well and come to the truth of the way things actually are so that we can be free. And then we can really be a wonderful support to others around us. We can really love fully and be completely fine with whatever is going on with them, any of them. Human beings are in all different kinds of conditions. They all deserve forgiveness. They all deserve support. And so do we, so do you. Do you know the last part?
I'll do the best I can.
Go for it.
It's on page 68 again. Anga mayam dhammakataya sadhu karam karames. Now let us express
teaching so completely explained by him, I bow to the Dhamma. The Blessed One's disciples, who have practiced well,